Hello and welcome to this course. Gradients are one of the amazing features in motion design industry. Creating these type of animations are easy, and it is one of those techniques that every motion designer needs to know. So in this course we will learn how to create stunning gradients in Adobe After Effects. We will start by designing a jellyfish in Adobe Illustrator, and then slowly we will rig and animate the character. Along the way we will get comfortable with gradients and styling our jellyfish. For the class project, students can design and animate a jellyfish or an animal they like, and they can share it in the project section. This course is suitable for anyone who is struggling with gradients in Adobe After Effects, and you don't need to be expert in Adobe After Effects to take this course. Once again, welcome. Let's start. So here I am inside of Adobe Illustrator, and I'm going to click on New File to make a new composition. I'm going to set it on 9020 by 9020, and I'm going to change the color mode to RGB color. And now let's hit Create. Now, if you open the Illustrator for the first time, you might have the different interface than me. So to fix that, I want you to go to Window, and then in Workspace, set it on Essential Classic. And if it is still different, make sure you click on the Reset Essential Classic. So now that we are all on the same page, let's begin. So I like to open the Layers panel, and then I'm going to bring it in here so we can see all the layers. And now I'm going to start designing our main character. Now the first thing I'm going to do is that I'm just going to turn off the stroke by just clicking on the None icon in here. And I'm going to select a pinkish color like this. And then I'm gonna go towards the rectangle tool, and I'm gonna hold my mouse button, and then I'm gonna drag it like this to create a rectangle, and I can hold space to adjust the shape. So this is going to be my main shape. And now what I'm going to do is that I'm just gonna switch to direct selection tool, and I'm going to select this shape, and I'm going to select these 2 points, and I'm gonna curve it down like this. However, I'm just going to select the bottom points, and I'm gonna adjust it like this. So this is going to be sort of our head and body, and I can just rescale it a bit if I want by pressing Shift. I think it's fine. And now on the next step, what I'm going to do is that I'm gonna call this one body, and I'm gonna click in here to create a new layer. This time I'm gonna hold on the rectangle tool to switch to the ellipse tool, and then I'm just gonna change its color to white, and I'm gonna hold Shift, and I'm going to move it at the same time with space. Well, that's nice. And then what we can do is that we can go towards the window, and we can open the Align tab in here, and I'm going to select these two shapes, and I'm going to make sure that I will line them into center like this. Well, that's nice. And then what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to select this shape, and I'm going to press Ctrl plus C, and then I'm going to paste it by pressing Ctrl plus F. So that way I will duplicate this shape. And now as you see, we have two layers in here, and I'm going to change it into a white color. I'm just going to rescale it like this. So this is going to be our eye. And now lastly, what we are going to do is that I'm just going to create a new layer, and this is going to be our eyeball. And this is going to be our eye. Great. Now lastly, what we need to do is that we need to create some tentacles for jellyfish. Well, to do that, what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to go towards the pen tool. This time I'm gonna click on this little icon to change it into stroke, and I'm gonna change its color to a pinkish color as well. And now I'm just gonna go towards this icon in here, and I'm gonna expand this little triangle, and I'm going to set these stroke caps to round corners. And I'm going to set this stroke to a number such as 100 for now. And I'm going to click to draw a line like this, so we can increase the tentacle size. So I'm just gonna set it on 150, or that seems nice. And I'm going to move it beneath the body, and I'm going to make sure that we are going to set it on a new layer, and I'm going to rename this one. And I'm going to also push it beneath. So we sort of have an ice cream right now, which is fine, but we are going to modify this in Adobe After Effects a little bit on. So once you have done that, then you just need to go towards File, and then in Save, you need to save your Illustrator file, so which I'm going to do it right now. Alright, now that we are done with the design phase, it's time to move to the After Effects and continue our work. So here we are inside of Adobe After Effects. Now let's begin. So the first thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to show you my workspace, which right now I'm working on the standard workspace. If you have a different workspace, make sure you reset it into save layout. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm gonna hit the file, and then I'm going to import my jellyfish design. And I'm going to make sure that design is imported as a composition and the footage dimension is set on layer size. So here's the jellyfish design, and I'm going to open the composition. So the first thing I'm going to do is that I'll need to turn these Illustrator layers into shapes so we can have access to the shape modifiers. Well, to do that, I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to select create shapes from vector layers. And then I'm going to right click on it again, and then I'm going to select invert selection, and then I'm going to press delete so I can delete the other layers. Alright, now what I'm going to do is that on the first step, I'm gonna create a parenting rig system for our design so we can control everything independently. So on the first step, what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to make sure that the anchor points are in the right place. So right now, as you see, the anchor point is in the middle. So if I press rotation, it is going to rotate from the middle. So that's not what we want. So I'm just going to go towards the anchor point tool in here, and then I'm going to set the anchor point on here. Now the body is fine. Also the eyeball and the eye is fine as well. Now what I'm going to do on the next step is that I'm going to create a new null object, and I'm going to place this null object above, and I'm going to parent the body and the eyes to the null. Same as the tentacle. And the reason I didn't parent everything to the body, so let me show you. If I parent everything to the body, I parented everything to the... If I parent everything to the body, and if I start to stretch, and as you see squash and stretch, it will affect everything. So this is not what we want. So to do that, we need to parent everything to the null. Now we can control the body independently without changing anything. Now that we finish our rig, let's take a moment and talk about loops. Well, it's fundamental to remember, in order a loop to be perfect, the range between keyframes we're going to add should be equal, or multiples or dividers the unit we choose. For this video, we are going to set the body movement every 8 frames, and also I will work on 50 frames per second to get a more cartoonish look. So right now let's check our composition settings. Now as you see, we are working on the 24 frames per second, and I'm going to change it into 50 frames. The width and height is fine. Now on the next step, if I want to shift between frames better, I'm just going to hold Control, and I'm going to click on the time indicator to change it to frame rate. So now if I type, for example, 8, I will move 8 frames forward. But if I write -8, this will jump into the frame -8, which doesn't exist. Well, to move backward to sort of fix this problem, all you need to do is that you need to write +-8. So for example, if I write +16, I will move 60 frames forward. And now if I write +-8, I will move back 8 frames. So I'm just going to move towards 2 seconds, which is going to be at 30 frames. And this will give me a little bit more room to work. And then I'm going to grab a marker, and I'm going to set it down here. And then I'm going to jump 8 frames forward, and I'm going to set another one. And again, 8 frames forward, and I will exactly repeat these markers. So these are the 5 markers, and I'm going to place 2 markers in here as well. Alright, so now that we have the basic design, it is time to animate each related part, which we are going to do in the next video. Alright, so here we are, and now in this video I'm just going to create the main movement as well as the squash and stretch for our jellyfish. So what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to move towards 30 frames, which is 2 seconds, and then I'm going to press B to set the start of our animation, and then I'm going to go towards the 61 frames, and then I'm going to press N, and Adobe After Effects automatically set the time indicator 1 frame forward, which is now 62 frames. So this is going to be our main loop area. So now what I'm going to do is that on the next step, I'm just gonna press P to reveal position. And now let's rename the null to the movement null, so we can know what this is about. And then I'm going to press P, and then on the second marker, what I'm going to do is that I'm just need to make sure that I parent the body to the null as well, and then I'm going to push it down a bit. Now let's solo the body so we can see it. So we have this main animation. Now there are a couple of things we can do. Either we can copy and paste these keyframes for the entire time, or we can use the expression. So I'm just going to hold Alt, and then I'm going to click on this stopwatch to set the expression, and I'm going to type loop out, and in the parentheses I'm just gonna add double quote mark, and then I'm gonna write ping pong. So that is basically loops our animation back and forward. And now let's watch. Alright, so we have this animation, but it looks too linear. So I'm just going to select these keyframes, and then I'm going to right click on them, and in keyframe assistant I'm going to press easy ease, and the shortcut for it is F9. So I'm just gonna use the F9 from now on, and then I'm gonna go towards the graph editor, and I just can push the first keyframe to the right to get a sharp move. Alright, great. Now on the next step, what we need to do is that we need to squash and stretch the body. Well, to do that, I'm just going to press S to reveal the scale on the body, and then I'm going to move towards the second marker where the character is at its lowest, and now I'm just gonna click on this chain icon so we can control the scale independently, and then I'm just gonna stretch it for like 110, and then I'm just gonna remove the same number. So now that our character is squatted at this point, if I move towards this marker in here, as you see, the character doesn't have movement because our loop starts at the 2 seconds, but the character is at its highest, which we need to squash it. However, since we want to have a perfect loop, I'm just going to repeat the same keyframe from the second marker, and then I'm just going to move a few frames forward, and I will squash the body. And now we can add a loop out cycle expression. So now if we move towards the animation, okay, we didn't add the cycle, let's just fix it. Great, now in the next video we continue our animation for our jellyfish. So far we have made this animation, and now it is time to add a bit more detail by animating the eye. So there are 2 ways to animate the eyes, and as you see, the right one is made with a rounded rectangle and the left one with an ellipse tool. And as you see, the right one has a bit more depth into it. So let's start by selecting the eyeball, and as you see, it tells me that the ellipse size is set on 230 by 230. So what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to go towards the rectangle tool, and I'm going to select the rectangle, and I'm going to turn off the stroke, and I'm going to get the eyedropper tool to get the color, and then I'm going to draw a rectangle like this, and then I'm going to call it the eyeball. And if I go towards the rectangle path, I will change the size to 230, and I will add the roundness just like this. So this is going to be our main eye. So I'm just going to replace it in here, and I'm just going to delete the eyeball, and I'm going to parent it to the movement null as well. Now let's make sure the anchor point is set on the middle. Alright, that's nice. And now what we need to do is that I'm just going to use the track matte in here, and I'm gonna peak whip the eye to the eyeball. And as soon as I do that, the eyeball disappears. So I'm just gonna reveal it back. And now if I move the eye, as you see, it moves inside of the eyeball, which is what we want. And now let's add a bit more animation to this eye. So what I'm going to do in order to animate a simple blink, I'm just gonna navigate through the rectangle. And now in rectangle path, I'm just going to click on the chain option to change the size, and I'm gonna make a keyframe, and now one in here, I'm just gonna move 3 frames forward, and then I'm just gonna bring the Y value to 0. Alright, so now we have a nice blinking animation. Now, in the next video, we are going to animate the tentacles. Alright, so now in this video, we are going to animate the tentacles, and we will finish our jellyfish animation. So the first thing I'm going to do is that I noticed that my tentacle was missing an A, so I'm just going to tentacle, and I'm sorry for that. And right now it seems a little bit big, so I'm just going to decrease the tentacle a bit, and I'm going to increase the length to something like that, and I'm going to change this color to orange, and then I'm going to duplicate, and this time I'm going to change this one to pink, and I'm going to shift this one a bit to the left and this one to the right. So we will have some balanced tentacles like this. Nice. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to open the rotation on both property, and I'm going to set a keyframe, and then I'm gonna go towards the second marker, and I'm gonna push this one to -50 degree, and this one I'm gonna set it on 50 degree, and then I'm gonna copy and paste the first keyframe in here, and then what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to copy and paste that one more time, and I'm gonna apply the standard easings. So now we'll have this animation, and well, right now it looks a little bit weird. So now to make this animation a little bit better, what I'm going to do is that with these 2 layers selected, I'm gonna write path, and then I'm gonna set a keyframe on path animation. And now what I'm gonna do is that I'm just gonna go towards the convert vertex tool, and with the layer selected, I'm just gonna drag the point like this. And then I'm gonna go towards the second layer, and I'm gonna try to recreate this one. And let's just solo it so we can adjust them better. So we want to have a sort of a perfectly shapes in the center. Well, that's nice. And now when it's in here, I'm just going to click once, and then I'm gonna do a shape like this. And for this one, I'm just going to do a shape like this as well. Now on the next step, I'm just going to copy and paste keyframes, and this time I'm gonna extend the pasting keyframes because I want to offset them, which I will show you in a second. and I'm going to apply the standard easings. So now let's watch. Well, right now they seem super weird. Now to fix that, what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to select the keyframes and I'm going to offset these for like 2 frames, and I'm just gonna drag these keyframes all the way up. Now offsetting the keyframes all depends on you, so you guys need to play with the keyframes to find the best result. So now as you see, we have something like this, which is close to what we want. But now what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to duplicate this layer and I'm going to place it beneath, and then I'm going to give it a bit darker shade color and I'm going to push it towards right. And now I'm going to select these keyframes, and then I'm going to reveal the keyframes again, and then I'm going to offset it for 2 more frames. And then again for this one, I'm just gonna duplicate it. I'm gonna get the color and then let's just move it beneath. And again with this path highlighted, and let's offset it a bit more. So as you see, this is not just a rule, you can play it however you want. And as you see, we have finished our jellyfish animation, and now in the next video we are going to focus on how to stylize these jellyfish. Now, before we get to the design phase, there are 2 important concepts that you need to know in order to become better at the styling. The first one is color and the lighting. Now, there are many ways to achieve the gradient effects in Adobe After Effects, but there are 2 common ways that I will talk about it. Understanding how to work with gradients will help you understand this video better. On the left side, we have a circle made by Adobe After Effects shape tool. By clicking on the fill option, you can choose from various styles for your shape. Now, you can control the color range by changing the start and end points of this slider. Now, the second circle is made by Gradient Wrap effect, which you can access by selecting the Effects and Preset tab, which is located in here, and then type Gradient Wrap and apply it to your layer. Now, the Gradient Wrap effect has a start and end point controllers that allow you to control the color range of your layer. Now, there is one major difference between these 2 circles. For example, if I select this circle 2 layer and I start to move it, the effect starts to move with it as well. But unlike the circle 1 layer, the color range will not change when moved. Now, we will use the shape gradient for the rest of this video. However, there is a fix for making the effect not move. Well, select the circle 2 layer, hold Alt and then click on the start of the ramp to activate the expression. Now, write to comp value to fix it. Now, as I do that, the start point will jump away, so I need to readjust it. Now, I will copy the expression and I will paste it for the end of the ramp as well. So now it works well. Now we want to take a moment and talk about the glow effect. Now, in order to take your gradient into the next level, you need to add the glow effect into your layers. And there are 2 ways that you can do it. Well, the best way that you can create a stunning glow effect for your layers is by using the deep glow effect. However, if you don't have the deep glow effect for this course, you can use the drop shadow effect to create a similar effect to what we want. So now let's begin. And now, in order to access to the deep glow, I'm just gonna select the layer, and then in Effects and Preset tab, I'm gonna just write the deep glow. And then as soon as I apply it, as you see, I will have a nice glow effect to this rectangle layer. And now in here, we have a radius, which we can change the radius of the glow effect, and also we have exposure, which will affect how bright and dark the glow effect should be. So right now I'm gonna set it on 1, and lastly we have the blend mode in here, which you can change it from add to screen depending on your animation. Now, assuming that we don't have the deep glow plugin and we want to create this manually, well, as I said before, it will not be as good as the deep glow effect, but we will try to create something similar to this one. Well, in order to get sort of the outer glow effect, what we are going to do is that I'm just going to select the drop shadow effect, and then I'm going to write the effect drop shadow, and I'm going to drag it towards the rectangle layer. And as you see, nothing will happen because we need to set the opacity on 100, and then I'm just going to change the color for now to blue so you can see, and then we need to increase the softness. So as you see, we have some outer glow, but it's not close to what we even want. So to fix that, we need to set the distance to minimal number, such as like 0, and then I'm going to duplicate this layer, and again I'm just going to change it to a brighter shade, and then I'm just going to increase the softness. For example, I'm going to set this one to 400 and this one to 200, and again I'm going to duplicate this layer one more time, and this time I'm going to set it on 600. So we have something close to the outer glow. Now, in order to create the inner glow, what we need to do is that we need to add the outer glow effect in the layer styles panel. So now if I add the outer glow, as you see, it will affect everything. So to fix that problem, I'm just going to duplicate this layer. I'm going to press Ctrl plus Shift plus E to remove all of the effects, and then I'm going to create a outer glow effect, and then we can use the spread, and then we can use this size and jitter to get sort of a nice outer glow around our shape. Now we can even push this effect further by adding an inner glow, which will exactly do the opposite thing. If we open the inner glow, we can use this size and a choke effect to sort of create something like this. Now this will, as I have mentioned earlier, if you can get the deep glow plugin, which will help you to stylize and make your animations better. But if you can't afford the deep glow at the moment, you can use the drop shadow effect to create something similar. Now with this knowledge, let's get back to the jellyfish, and we're going to continue the styling the jellyfish. So far we have made this animation, and now it is time to stylize it. So the first thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to duplicate this composition, and I'm going to call it gradient style. And then I'm going to open the gradient install. Now the first thing we are going to do is that we are going to use the layer styles in order to set up the lighting. So to do that, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to solo the body, and then in order to have access to the layer style, I'm just going to right click on it, and in the layer style section I'm going to select inner shadow. Now in the inner shadow section, the first thing we are going to do is that we are going to sort of create a light source. So to do that, I'm going to increase the distance, and then I'm going to increase its size as well. So I'm going to set it on 50, and then 50 on here as well. And then I'm going to add a bit of noise by setting the noise on 12%. So here's the light source. And lastly, let's just set its mode on overlay. And now we have something like this. Now, in order to add the gradients, I'm going to open the layers styles again. And this time I'm going to add the gradient overlay. And now I'm going to open the gradient overlay, and I'm going to click on edit colors, and I'm going to change the colors. Now in here, you can change the style of your gradient. For example, you can choose between the diamond, angular, or even more. But for this one, I'm just going to set it on linear gradient for now. So here's the base design that we have in here, and now I'm going to add a bit more depth by adding another gradient. So to do that, what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to duplicate this layer, and I'm going to call it the body gradient mask. And then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go towards the ellipse tool, and let's just remove the layer style by pressing delete on this one. And now let's draw a mask around here. Oops, we need to make sure that we are going to select the tool that creates masks, and then I'm going to draw a mask like this. Now on the next step, what we are going to do is that I'm going to go towards the effects and preset tab, and I'm going to add a fill effect into the body gradient mask, and I'm going to change its color. And now I'm going to press F to reveal the feather option, and I'm going to feather the mask like this. So we have another gradient like this in here. Now we can play with the color a bit more. Now this might not be still what we want. So on the next step, what we are going to do is that we are going to add the deep glow effect. So I'm just going to add the deep glow effect to the body. As soon as I do that, you see that our body changed and we have nice glow in here. So I'm just going to change the radius. Oh, that's nice. Now it is time to create our background. So let's create a new solid. I'm going to call it background. And again, I'm going to add a fill effect into it. And let's just move it beneath. And now let's just change its color. And now on the next step, what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to copy the layer styles from the body, and I'm going to paste it for the other layers as well. And now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to open the gradient, and I'm going to change the color. And then I'm going to copy the layer styles again, and I'm going to paste it for the second layer in here. Now for the third one, what we are going to do is that we're just going to paste it, and again we are going to change the gradient color. And we are going to copy it, and we are going to paste it on this layer as well. And lastly, we can get the deep glow effect, and we're going to paste it on the other layers as well. Now it looks much better. And lastly, I'm gonna go towards the layer styles one more time, and I'm gonna copy it, and then I'm gonna paste it for the eye layer. And we can also add the deep glow effect again. And for the final adjustment, we can increase the matte feather on the body gradient mask, and we can also change its color to a bit reddish color. Well, all done.